Hey, what's up everybody? Bastian here. Today I'm diving into the Ableton session for Body, which is a track off my new release, Body Lifted. Check that out on all platforms. This video is kind of a part two. Part one was a technical 101 on how to sample vinyl records, which I did for this track, Body. In this video, I'm showing how I used the samples from this vinyl record that I found from the 60s that was basically recorded to introduce Western listeners to traditional Indian music. In this video, I'll give you some insight into how I made this track, including how I mixed the samples and used them in the arrangement. So let's dive right in. First, I'll just play a quick snippet from the second drop, and you'll probably notice the samples I used in there. These are all samples I grabbed from that record, and here are two that I ended up using in the track itself.
The complex rhythms of her feet, combining movements of the body.
So as you could hear, those vocals were narration, they weren't singing. And I was partly inspired by Two Shell on this. In some of their tracks, they use narration or spoken word vocals to kind of address the audience directly, almost like starting a conversation with the listener. So I wanted to kind of emulate that in this track. I felt like it lent itself to the cinematic vibe that I was going for. The first time you hear them is in this sort of breakdown, build-up section after the intro.
What do we really know about all these millions of people?
In terms of mixing, these definitely needed some work. I did a lot of EQ to help clean it up and shape the tone. You can see I'm trying to give the voice a little bit more body to it. No pun intended. Also compression to lower the dynamic range, make the volume more consistent. And then some light saturation at the end here. And then, of course, you can hear the reverb and delay, which is pretty heavy.
What do we really know?
The most tedious part was definitely going in and cutting out the loudest and most obnoxious vinyl crackle pops. You know, part of the fun of sampling vinyl records is getting that vinyl sound, part of which is that crackle, especially for old records. It's unavoidable, but sometimes it's just too much, you know, sometimes it's just way, way too loud. And in those cases, sometimes just have to go in and cut them out. And because these cuts are so short, you actually don't really hear it when you play it back. So, for example, here's one of them, and you can see them very obviously on the waveform, which makes it a little easier. Now, in some moments, I make the vocals stutter or glitch like this.
Something.
And I added those just to keep things fresh and so that I wasn't just using the exact same vocal clip over and over again, as well as for big moments where I wanted to make more of an impact, like on the drop here.
Something. Oh, the body.
And on the final drop, I really went for it and used a lot of these effects. Because by this point, you're already used to hearing the regular version. Or
complex rhythms of body.
So the way I created those effects was using grain delay, specifically this plugin Portal by Output, which is one of my favorites. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but here's one of the presets just to give you an idea of what you can do. Here's the dry vocal.
Something.
And here it is with Portal.
Something.
That's a pretty standard grain delay, but it does a lot more than that as well. So I had a lot of fun with that. I recorded a ton of different varieties. And in case you're wondering, the lead vocals were not from the record in question. They're just from a sample pack. But I used Portal in similar ways on those. Got some really cool panning effects with that one. One thing to note is that I changed the order of words to make her say different phrases than she actually said. So here's what it originally sounded like.
Combining movements of the body, eyes and neck.
So I ended up shifting some of the words around just because it just sounded better to me. And to help the narrator vocals stand out in the mix, I sidechained these lead vocals to the narration vocals, as you can see here.
Eyes, feet, and neck.
It's pretty subtle, but the lead vocals dip just 1 or 2 dB whenever the narration comes in, just to carve a little room for these narrator sound bites. The other samples I used from that record are these sitar and tablas clips. In context of the track.
The body.
These are probably some of my favorite elements in this track. Yeah, it just adds such a beautiful, organic, complex texture. It's percussive, but also melodic, and I really love what it brings to the track. I also ran these sitar and tablas clips through Portal and came up with some really awesome results that I blended with the original. So here's the Portal version by itself. Kind of just giving like a reverse effect on that grain delay. And here it is with the original. Just gives it like another kind of breath there. Here's a better example. Crazy. And then here it is with the original. So again, just to like keep adding interest and layers and levels to these samples so that I can get more use out of them throughout the track. I'm not just playing the same clip over and over again. Here's one more example. So cool. And here it is in the context of the song. And here's the other one. Oh shit, I forgot about this. And there's one last sample from this record that I almost forgot about that I'm actually pretty proud of how I made use of it here. It's this tablas loop. So I'm gonna copy and paste this so we can hear like what it originally sounded like. It's such a cool clip, and it fit in this part of the track so well, but I don't know if you noticed, there was a sitar playing in the background. It's quiet, but unfortunately it wasn't quite working, but I loved the tablas so much that I decided to chop it up and try to just get rid of the sitar. And here's what it sounded like when I chopped it up. But as you can hear, now it sounds more robotic almost at start and stop. So the solution I came up with was to use Storm Drum, which is an East-West sample library, mainly used for film scoring. But they've got a lot of amazing drums in here, including a tablas. So here's what it sounds like when I kind of tried to recreate this sample. It wasn't going to cut it to completely replace the sample. So what I did was I kept the original sample in its chopped form and I played them at the same time. So for me, this was just a perfect solution. Storm Drum is filling in the silent bits. Meanwhile, I still get some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? Expression. The expression and the player's natural ability from the original sample. This took a minute to figure out, but I'm glad I did. And here it is in context of the song.
What do we really know about all these millions of people?
You can't even tell that those are two separate samples. I blended it together pretty nicely, I must say. And I didn't even use too much compression on this little group. I just have a drum bus adding some drive, some saturation. I really not use anything else besides drum bus to glue that together? It helps that they're the exact same instrument, of course, and I was pretty detailed about trying to replicate the pattern. And there you have it. This is my track Body. Now you know how I used all the samples from a vinyl record. Check out part 1 if you want to see the technical 101 of how I actually sample vinyl records. And be sure to go check out Body Lifted. It's on all the platforms. And hit subscribe if you found this useful. It's been a while since I made a tutorial or any kind of production video for YouTube. Glad to be back. Thank you for all the support on the volume shaper tutorial, which I made a couple years ago and is now definitely outdated. I should probably make an update, but it's pretty cool to see how much organic traction that video has gone over the years. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you again. Till next time, Bastion out.
All of us know something